Here's our contact information in case any of you want to reach out to us later. There we go. I just to start out, so as we talked about things that we want to talk about in RG, some people may think it's kind of an interesting combination. What's somebody from the responsible gameplay team doing, presenting alongside our marketing person? Well, at Aristocrat, this collaboration, this cross-functional collaboration, is what we feel is kind of the secret to our success. Our RG commitments are one of our most material sustainability commitments, and in order to elevate those, we felt like this collaboration between marketing has been one of the strongest things to help us elevate awareness about our program. So just a disclaimer to share with you all that this presentation does contain some images and clips that depict gambling activities and devices that could be triggering, so please take care. So we're going to share with you some insights on how we lead in responsible gameplay and how that drives us to evaluate how we look at responsible gameplay and why it's important to us to continuously improve in this area. That desire for continuous improvement is really what led to the creation of the Know Your Max campaign. And you're going to hear more about that campaign and how it evolved from Amber, along with how the marketing team really infuses that importance of RG in everything that they do. We're going to wrap up this presentation with some information about how we plan to expand our program, how we plan to strengthen it, and how we want to collaborate with not just other internal stakeholders, but our external friends. So, RG at Aristocrat. We have a three-pillared approach to responsible gameplay, and it is comply, empower, and improve. So, as you can see, we have this character Play-Doh that you'll see throughout some other in some other slides that kind of embodies the program. But I want to talk a little bit more about these pillars. Compliance really is the foundation to our approach. We're a high compliance, high integrity business, which means that we uphold all the rules, regulation. We look at all the legislation that govern our products in any jurisdiction. Everything we produce at Aristocrat also complies with our responsible gameplay policies and meets additional standards that we've set for ourselves. Comply, really for us, it's not just about meeting that minimum standard, but it's about how can we exceed that standard. Moving on to empowering, we want to empower players through informed choice. We provide clear, accessible information about how our games work. We feel it's important to focus on busting those myths around the gaming machine and enhancing choice. We provide ongoing training to our employees, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that training. And we're also continuing to expand our engagement and education initiatives so players can really understand the risks of playing. Improve means we want to get better every day. This is a journey for us. We will always look to how we can improve. We want to take a proactive approach to responsible gameplay by advocating for and adopting best practices within our company and within our industry. We want to utilize innovation to further advance and enhance tools and technology that sit in and around our products. Improvement also means that we want to invest in product innovation, encourage responsible gameplay across our gaming portfolios, including developing and fostering relationships with community organizations, with other industry stakeholders, collaborating with, other companies within the gaming industry. So I'm going to play for you a short clip from one of our new and enhanced policies, and this policy is focused on our responsible marketing policy for regulated gaming. So let's and then I'll come back and talk about some of the other policies. So let's see.
As you work on marketing and promotional materials, whether they are internal or external, we expect you to avoid certain language which could be misleading or position our business in an inappropriate manner. For example, our language should not state or infer that a level of skill can lead to winning in our games of chance, not be disrespectful to players of our games, not appeal to the gambler's fallacy where certain players mistakenly believe that a win is more likely to occur soon based on a lack of previous wins, not refer to scientific or psychological concepts, not misrepresent game outcomes or odds, not state or imply that gambling wins could be a form of income or a way of supplementing income, and not be perceived as targeting vulnerable people. To see the full list of words we don't use, please visit our approved language checklist, which can be found in the policy.
So all our marketing and promotional materials must be consistent with our policy. While you saw this portion, which was focused on our language checklist, this video also contains more in-depth information on our market research guidelines that we've developed for the company. So whenever we're doing research, it fits within these particular mandatory guidelines. We talk about why compliance matters, the approval process that we go through for all marketing material, and then practical tips on how our employees can utilize these policies, helping it make more sense to them. And really, there's a strong emphasis in this training, not just this training, but all the new training that we did, that if you're not sure if this applies to you, or if there's something that you have a question about, really creating that atmosphere where employees feel very comfortable asking the question. So we would rather they ask before moving ahead. And just to skip back to the previous slide, the refreshed RG policies really, it spanned our entire company. We had a new group policy which encompasses all of Aristocrat. And then we also developed policies at a business unit or group function level for Pixel United, which is our social casino side, our product development charter that regulates all of our regulated gaming markets, and then this marketing policy. So one piece that we really talked about when we were developing this training and we were doing the videos is that we made a conscious choice that we wanted our employees to be delivering these messages. We thought that it would be more impactful to the rest of the workforce if they could connect with the people who were talking about these policies and talking about the importance of the training, and that they knew that these employees worked in these various groups across the company in different countries. And so we thought that would be more impactful. And you can also look at, go to our aristocrat.com to see more about our sustainability disclosures. Oops. So as we looked at our RG program and our desire to broaden our impact, we really focused on three elements. This incremental innovation and improvement, which is really a fundamental feature of our responsible gameplay program. It was consistent with the theme of evolution and change, and Aristocrat is increasingly broadening our RG model from one of this concept of informed choice to a more flexible choice or approach that's based on the differing needs of consumers within the various cohorts. This led us to the adoption of our variation of the sustainable gameplay model, which focuses on sustainable play and views the consumers across a risk spectrum. We feel that this responsible gameplay model provides the appropriate vehicle for us to expand upon informed choice and incorporate measures that also address control and protection. And finally, this ensures that we tailor our efforts to be most effective and useful to those individuals within that particular area on this model. So just a little bit within each of these areas. The first area where you see on this far left side of informed choice. In this area, we're really focused on the recreational player, the player who is staying in control, who's enjoying their gameplay. And this is the largest cohort where we bring forward universal prevention measures, such as information on how electronic gaming machines work, myth-busting education, game rules and resources, to help them stay in this positive zone and keep them playing sustainably. This is where the philosophy of empowerment and informed choice is most applicable. And here's where you see the Know Your Max campaign. We also identify in this area our player information videos, which you're going to see a short clip of one in a little bit. Our participation in Responsible Gaming Education Month, our collaborations with researchers. In this case, we did a research study with UNLV to find out from players, what tools do they think are most effective? I mean, what would they actually use? And then some other pieces. As we gravitate more towards the middle in that area of supporting control, these are the players who may be at risk of developing problems. This is where indicated prevention strategies and tools are relevant. For example, tools that screen for problem behaviors, targeted education materials and resources to at-risk individuals, and EGM functionality to quarantine winnings, setting time and spend limits, and other types of monitoring tools. And here I'm just going to point out this tool that we've developed called FlexiPlay, which is actually something that we're trialing in Australia, and so we have high hopes for that tool. Here at the far end of this sustainable gameplay model is that area of protection. This is the space where we know that people are already experiencing disordered gambling or gaming. So prevention strategies under informed choice and supporting control are not going to be effective for this group. This is where treatment is needed, and experts, tell us that they simply cannot play at all. This is where self-exclusion is a piece that we look at. We also look at, our supporting treatment centers. This is where we focus on our support of the National Council and the National Helpline. So we also, I think Dr. Fong mentioned when he was talking about prevalence studies, Oklahoma, we supported the Oklahoma Council in doing their recent prevalence study. We do work with the University of Sydney. We have some things in our product madness area that focus on this too. So here's the second clip that I'm going to play, which is an example of this informed choice. And so you're going to be seeing this short clip from this video. What are the odds of winning a jackpot on a modern slot machine? And then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other pieces.
Imagine if this Olympic-sized swimming pool wasn't filled with water, but red balls. These balls represent your bets in a game. Each time you spin the reels, you have a chance of winning the jackpot. Now where's the jackpot, you ask? It's represented here by a yellow ball. Now every time you bet, you remove one of the red balls, which will get you closer to the jackpot, right? Wrong. When you bet again, you throw the red ball back into the pool with all the other red balls and the yellow ball. Know the odds of winning a jackpot. Don't bet more than you can afford to lose.
And again, you'll be able to you can find these on our website. So in addition to this video, we have other videos that talk about that focus on the meaning of sounds in a machine, what return to player means, and how a bet works. These videos we've made available in English, Spanish, Mandarin, Chinese, and Japanese, and we're looking to translate these into other languages. This is an area where we really want to try to expand, getting information out there. And so we're constantly exploring how we can advance player education and awareness, and through new or innovative tools, updated materials, and just hopefully, getting more information out there about how this works and the risks. So now I'm going to turn this over to my colleague Amber, and she is going to take you through the second part of our presentation that talks about marketing through an RG lens. And we'll be happy to answer questions after, or if you have questions during anything, and we'll be here for the whole conference too. So,
thanks, Chrissy. We'll do my best here. So, hello, I'm Amber Alexander. I'm a senior marketing manager at Aristocrat. Last year, I was given the privilege of coming to this conference, and it was a little frightening because I'm a little bit of the enemy. But I do think it's important that people like me are here, because we are getting information that I am then relaying back that make these kind of things foundational in the way that we develop advertising. So marketing and RG. So RG has always been sort of an enemy to marketing, right? It's something that we've had to do. We've always viewed it as, all right, pass it by RG, let them get their blessing, and we can get this out. We're not doing that at Aristocrat. We have essentially built in a foundation of responsible gameplay into every piece of advertising by developing a relationship with our partners in RG. So me and Chrissy talk almost daily, or I talk to Jabez in Australia, or I talk to Tassos in Europe. We want to make sure that we're not doing this because we have to. We are putting RG, we're thinking of how we're creating our advertising through that lens because we want to ensure that gaming remains sustainable. We understand the type of industry that we're in. So what are some ways that we make RG forward decisions when developing advertising? So here are some examples of our ads. It's very easy to put a boilerplate, a 15-mile long boilerplate on every single ad. You've seen that huge chunk of tiny text at the bottom of every LSB ad. We don't do that. And why don't we do that? Because we want to make sure that the RG resources stand out, and we want to sort of play to it to build it up more as we move forward. So we have the ads for our gaming products. So on the far left side here, far left side here, we have an advertisement for our NFL slots. And if you look at that little foam finger, we're inserting little Easter eggs into it, 21 plus. We try to reinforce our messaging. The boilerplate there, because this was a nationwide placement, is something that has the nationwide number, the 1-800, this is the old number, the 1-800-522-4700. We used to use a slightly larger boilerplate, including the old gambling problem hotline number, plus the 1-800-GAMBLER and resources for New Jersey and New York. We actually switched over to the 1-800-GAMBLER because we wanted to shorten that in order to make it bigger on all of our advertising to help it stand out more. Now, we don't use this one across everything. The second placement here, this was on the Las Vegas Strip. This was a gigantic 3D buffalo we put on the Las Vegas Strip. And if you see there, we have this little mark, and you've probably seen these on video games, the Entertainment Software Rating Board mark, ESRB mark. And we wanted to create something that would stand out even on this buffalo to say like, hey, problem gambling, to make sure that we're not letting that message completely get erased by the advertising itself. Again, we use jurisdictional resources. So this one sort of lived nationwide, so we kept with the nationwide number. And these examples to the far right, we have a placement that was in Mississippi and a placement that is in Illinois, and we're using those local resources as part of our boilerplate instead of just using the 1-800-GAMBLER. So people are seeing that this is something, hey, I'm talking to you who live in Mississippi, I'm talking to you who live in Illinois. Before these advertisements even got up, we had to have a cross through RG. And we've essentially baked both responsible gameplay and legal into our workflow process. So just as an example of our workflow, these two is when we're placing digital media, so think ads on Facebook or across the internet. The second one, out of home, think billboards. Right? When it comes to the process, we develop our media plan. We say, okay, we're going to put ads here or here. And then we send it to legal, and legal says, yep, you can put ads anywhere you want. Here you go. But then we sit down with Chrissy and we say, Chrissy, should we place these ads? And should we place these ads here? Because responsible gameplay is an ethics question. We're allowed to do a lot of things, but we hold ourselves to a higher standard so that we make sure that we're not doing things that, one, don't speak to the values that we've developed as not just a department, but as well as a company. And then every piece of creative that you've seen, so I'm sure if you've driven around Vegas, you've seen some of ours, every piece of creative has been passed through both legal and our responsible gameplay team, actually Chrissy. Every piece has been passed through Chrissy. And that's actually worked into our workflow management system. We use a system called Reich, where the job doesn't get out until it has Chrissy's stamp on it. And that's another way that we make sure that, hey, is this messaging good? Are we playing into gambling fallacies? Are we playing into any myths? Or are we potentially catering to an audience that is not our intended audience? And to make sure that all those things are considered before we proceed with the advertising. Now, we talk about the process, we talk about the workflow, we talk about the creative, the placements, we talk about the placements themselves. So when it comes to where we place ads, we are considerate of where we are. So here we have an example of our Facebook and our Instagram. So Facebook and Instagram are the two platforms we advertise, and Google, because we're allowed to age gate our content. So if you are not 21, you cannot get to our social media channels. If you are not 21, you will not see one of our ads on your personal device. And we stay away from platforms like TikTok, even though I love TikTok. We don't go to TikTok, one, because the majority user base is not in our demographic that we would like to advertise to. And two, TikTok does not let us age gate. It will not let us reduce that audience by our own choice. So we stay away from there. In the digital space, it is a little bit easier. So partners like Google allow us to sort of condense that audience down to say, I only want these people. I don't want to be on these type of pages. So we also stay away from, honestly, we stay away from slot influencer pages because they play into a lot of myths. And so we don't want to be associated with that, our ads to be associated with any gambling myths as well. And so we're very deliberate in the way that we select digital placements. Also in our out-of-home placements. So like this billboard here, when we get a billboard pitch from a vendor, we don't just put it up. We say, please send us the coordinates. And we look at the coordinates. If it's local, we could drive out and go look at the coordinates. It's online, we take Google Maps, we look at the Google World View, because we need to consider other things that might be in that vicinity. So yes, that billboard's there. It's legal for us to put that billboard up, no problem. Oh wait, there is a school within a mile of that billboard. We're not gonna put that billboard up. Or there's a treatment facility near that billboard. We're not gonna put that billboard up there because we don't wanna appear in places where we could potentially do some harm. Lastly, we hold our marketing partners accountable. So it's not just Aristocrats. It is our billboard vendors. It is our market researchers. It is our creative agency. All of them have to go through a developed partner training so that they understand our responsible gameplay values. So they're not pitching us billboards that they know we can't buy. They're not pitching us, or they're not creating things with terms that we don't use. We stay away from the word thrill, right? Earlier you saw my colleague Katrina in the language checklist. They have those same language checklists. So when they're developing marketing materials, they're ensuring that they're not using these words that we don't want associated with our product or our brand. And so through all this, we've built a foundation of advertising, which has culminated in the first positive play campaign, which is called Know Your Max. And I'd like to introduce you to Know Your Max. So Know Your Max is a little play on words. So know your max bet, know your max limit, right? And ideally, it's a campaign designed around hitting people, around speaking to people on the non-problem gambling end of the spectrum. So working with Chrissy, and we've seen some of the research around how people are tuning out responsible gameplay messaging because, well, I don't have a problem gambling, so that's not for me. And this campaign is not designed for that spectrum of people. This is designed for people who might be on, who could potentially have problems gambling. And we want to make sure that those behaviors do not manifest by informing our audience. So a little bit of background of how we developed this campaign is we designed it for the audience to stand out. So if you look at a lot of problem gambling advertising, understanding because of the heaviness of the subject, it's dark, it's a little austere, it's very easy to tune out. We put this in the same as our brand colors, the same bright advertising, and say, hey, look at me. It's a good message, and we want to make sure that it's being caught by the audience. And we didn't design this alone. We actually did some market research and got information from people to say, hey, don't use this look. We tested out several different looks for our maxes with the idea that everyone has a max. And so we said, it would have been easy to be like, okay, Max is going to be cool because they're going to listen to a cool guy. Let's put him in a leather jacket and glasses, and it's going to be fun. No, the leather jacket didn't test well. People were like, no, I don't like it. I don't think he's taking things seriously. We had a super, we'll say, I'll be honest, stuffy look, very suit and tie, and that didn't test well either. We actually ended up with this academic look where people say, okay, they look authoritative, but not condescending, not preachy. Because essentially, if I'm talking down to you, you're also going to tune me out. The biggest part about this designing this campaign is taking marketing ideals and applying them to something truly good. When it comes to the messaging, we're not reinventing the wheel. We took things that were already in place. So the normal messaging, a lot of game res stuff around positive play, and condensed it down to make it easy for people to digest. The longer the message, the easier to tune out. So basically a stop, drop, and roll approach. So Maxism, we call these 3 little tidbits Maxisms. Max 1, play for fun, right? Gambling is not a way to make money. It is not a way to relieve stress necessarily. It is for entertainment purposes. Number 2, have a play plan, i.e. set set a limit with your budget and your time, right? Because I think a lot of times we get caught, well, I'm not spending a lot of money, so there's no issues. But if you're spending a lot of time, there is an issue. So set a limit with your budget and your time and stick to it. And lastly, take a break. Gambling is not the only thing in the world to do. There are other things, other ways that you can have fun, other things that you can enjoy, and it should be something that you balance in your life. Also, as part of this campaign, we created the same thing we would do for regular marketing. We created a landing page where we provide information. So we have our Maxisms here with a little bit more detail, as well as what we call the positive playbook, where we talk about odds of winning and we talk about gambling fallacies. And then myth busting, fact or fiction, as well as actual problem gambling resources on the page itself. So it's a one-stop destination for you to get a quick snapshot. Now, this is good for people who actually make it to the page, but what else are we doing around this? Before Max ever made it out of Aristocrat, or before it was ever debuted to the world, we debuted it internally to Aristocrats, because not just because everyone works for a slot manufacturer doesn't mean they necessarily agree with slot gaming. And we wanted to get feedback, both positive and constructive, from our internal stakeholders first. So we debuted it on a town hall. We debuted it to our 5,000 plus employees, and we sent out a survey, and we got a myriad of responses. So on the right-hand side, we have the first was like, did this video encourage you to want to learn more about positive play? And while the majority said yes, we did have some no's and some maybes. And those maybes, typically, in my background's in analytics, we count maybes as no's. How do we turn those no's into yeses? And they provided a lot of constructive criticism that we're taking to heart to say, how do we turn this so that more people are realizing what this is, what we're trying to do, and are continuing to listen to it and take those things to heart? Secondly, from an internal perspective, we want to understand, do people think this is associated with responsible gameplay? And again, overwhelming majority is yes, but we did have some constructive criticism, which is good. We want that constructive criticism to help us continue to develop. If everyone's giving us yeses, we're going in the wrong direction. We should know, we should be making not necessarily a mistake, but there are blind spots and we can't see them ourselves. We need other people to point them out for them so that we can continue to evolve this. This isn't something that we build once and it lives forever. This has to continue to evolve. It has to continue to get into places where more people are willing to take in the messaging. And then Max's debut. I'm going to play for you the Know Your Max PSA. It's about 30 seconds long. Chrissy's disclaimer as well, there are gambling activities depicted here as just a quick disclaimer.
Welcome to Max HQ.
Hey, Max. Hey, Max.
Hello there, Max.
Hey, Max.
Let's make sure that we leave this at home next time.
Hey, think this might help. When you're playing, always set a limit with your time and budget, and stick to it.
Hey, who's hungry?
Yeah. Know your Max. Be a positive player.
So Know Your Max debuted alongside one of our biggest investments, which is our NFL slots. And we are actually spending 25% of that spend on the Know Your Max campaign. That's showing our investment into this. It's one of the largest initiatives we've undertaken in the last few years. And we've seen a positive response among consumers. So it's debuted across our digital channels. We also have a billboard out here in Las Vegas. 80 million impressions, so 80 million, over 160 million eyeballs, and 1.2 million views on that video. The important part about that is the completion rate. So we front loaded the information. If you notice, the last part is really just a little bit of animation. We front loaded the information in the first part to make sure that it's being delivered. And we have a 60% video completion rate, meaning most people are getting to through the messaging. And we want to make sure we keep going forward with that, with the idea that yes, numbers are good and numbers are great. What we want to see is people putting this into practice. If you remember the Steal This book, that's what we want for Know Your Max. We want to see emulation. We want to see people taking this and say, all right, hey, have you taken a break? Hey, what else do you want to do? We've been here for a while. And then how we're moving forward and reinforcing the message. So that commercial will continue running. We'll continue having new iterations of it. The other ways we're trying to push messaging like this forward is through our social channels and to get people more engaged with this kind of messaging. So one of the ways we're doing that on that social channels is Fact or Fiction Fridays. Essentially, we have 250,000 social followers. How can we make sure that those followers are engaging in healthy behaviors when they're gambling, or make sure they're setting their limits, making sure they're taking breaks? And so we're doing this, these like little, to gamify in a good way, right? We're gamifying it by saying like, hey, tell me your gaming myths. How can we bust these? And getting that feedback and understanding like, okay, people aren't opting into this one. Yes, they're opting into this one. How can we push the messaging more? And using that sort of data analytics and using the same things that we do to sell product to push this positive play messaging. We're also conducting market research. So in phase one, we just wanted to get a baseline understanding of whether people recognize or are just aware of responsible gaming messaging from the gaming industry, right? And most people said yes, but we got kind of a very big chunk of no, where we were like, no, they don't recognize it. Now, I grew up in Vegas, and I have almost no memory of not seeing a When the Fun Stops pamphlet. So I've been aware of problem gambling and responsible gameplay messaging my entire life, basically. But there's a lot of people who haven't, and it's because we see people tuning things out. As we move forward in time, we're going to keep doing this market research to see if we're moving the needle on people understanding or people recognizing this messaging. So our next phase, which is supposed to launch in the next month, we're going to ask about Know Your Max and positive play. And have they seen these ads? Do they understand what they're for? And do they think they're impactful? Do they want to know more about tools? And using that, again, to inform how we continue to develop this program. Lastly, I'm going to pass it back to Chrissy to tell you the new ways we're continuing RG in our journey.
Thanks so much, Amber. So just a couple of things to build upon what Amber shared is this tremendous collaboration between our RG team, which sits all over. We have people in Australia, in Europe. I am focused on the U.S., Canada, other areas, but we all work very collaboratively, and we really feel like now we're kind of ingrained in all these other departments. I'm a part of the weekly marketing leadership team meeting, so I report on RG to the marketing leadership team on a weekly basis, and we have those kinds of connections in other ways. And it was part of this, these early discussions about, what can we do? What's something creative that we can do to help capture the attention and help people not to get to a disordered gambling state. And so we talked about all these other great campaigns out there, and we wanted to focus on just the messaging and not our products. And we also talked a lot about, should we have someone famous delivering this? And the reason we decided on Max is because we really wanted people to know that there is a Max in each of them, that you you will take these messages and it'll be personal to you, and not necessarily associated with a public figure. So it's just been such a tremendous positive experience. So moving forward, we're constantly looking at how do we grow this? How do we expand our impact and take the influence of a company like Aristocrat and do good work? So we are looking to engage more in academic review of not just our Know Your Max campaign, because we want to keep growing that. It will have other iterations, but just, our RG program in general. What we even call it. Are we going to call it responsible gameplay? These are the things that those of us in the industry were always, asking about this stuff, and I think for all of us, and I see a lot of my, colleagues from other companies, we're always trying to, see how can we improve. We know this is a journey. We're not where we want to be, but we are going to keep moving forward. So academic review on many levels will be a big piece for us. We've had this interesting inquiry about taking our RG program and Know Your Max and different pieces and putting it into a case study with a university. So that's something we're really looking at, and we're really trying to see, you know, how could this be developed, and not just so we can be, you know, teaching and getting a very important perspective from a demographic that is important in this industry, but what can we take away from it, and how can we use those learnings to improve? So those are just kind of two examples. I mean, we're always looking at how we refresh what we have. How do we, you know, take the policies that we went through? You know, we did an exhaustive review of what was currently in place at Aristocrat across all business units, and how do we improve that? You know, how do we took, I mean, most of our policies were guidelines. We refreshed them, and now they're mandatory, but not just to, you know, tell people, you know, you must comply with these things, but helping them understand why it's so important to be so attentive to these nuances, languages, you know, where we place a billboard. It all feeds into that continuous improvement philosophy. Another piece, and this is kind of one of the benefits when your marketing folks and your communications team really, you know, they also believe in this value proposition that, you know, responsible gameplay is integral to our business. So, you know, when you have that kind of support, you get people who, you know, we have a fairly lean RG team, and we cover a lot of territory, but we have all these ambassadors within our company that sit in these different departments that help us deliver these messages and come to us with, you know, I don't think this, I think we could do better. I think we can make this more engaging, you know, not just externally, but we're always conscious of, you know, how does this impact our employees who work here? So we're looking at, you know, when and where to refresh, you know, all our assets, whether it's our website, our SharePoint site, which is available for all our employees where they can look at these policies. So this is another area where this collaboration is going to produce really wonderful positive effects. And so we'll be going through, you know, some of this. Where can we really strengthen our messaging? So that is it in a nutshell. We, you know, really appreciate the time and the attention, and we know you had another wonderful session to choose from. We want your feedback, whether it's positive or constructive or even negative, because that is how we are going to learn and improve. So use this QR code and you can provide us some feedback on this presentation or things in general. You can also go to aristocrat.com, aristocratgaming.com, to get more information. And if you have any questions, Amber and I are happy to take your questions.